So we had Ronan talk about interviewing for a while. That was good, yes?
Yeah.
Awesome. It went for a long time. So I'm going to try and condense two of my topics into one right now. So what I'm going to talk to you guys about is actually developing leaders from day one instead of just retraining and developing leaders. Cool? So what do you think the most important thing is? You know, Ronan just mentioned there when I was talking, I just turned away when you took the camera photo, that's awkward. Did you have the board marker, by the way, Ronan? What do you think one of the most important thing is? He was talking about there how I set the pace every single day and it was really easy for me to replicate myself. It's really important to be the person that you're trying to create. Does that make sense? So what are some things about leadership that you think you want to create in a person? Anyone?
Someone who never loses their attitude ever.
Well, that's impossible.
Ever.
Ever. A work ethic, yeah? Yeah, for sure. What else? Energy. I like that. That's cool. Energy. Yeah, I like energy. Consistency, yeah? You can lose your attitude, by the way, Louis. You just get it back. It's really fun. Resilience, yeah, for sure. For sure. So I'm trying to create those standards in the leaders that I have. And I guess, like, if you find yourself, has anyone else found themselves in a rut? Obviously, people who have been here for a couple of weeks, you're probably okay. But people who have been here for a couple of months or like, I don't know, 3 months to 6 months to 9 months, whatever, have you felt yourselves to have been in a rut before? Raise your hand if you felt like you've been in a rut. Yep. Awesome. The limitations to yourself, like your team's, your weaknesses are the limitations to your team. So if I'm not growing, if I'm a really good leader, I think, but I'm not actually building a team, what's my limitation? What's my weakness?
Not building a team.
Growing, interviewing. That would be the skill that I'm working on. If I'm having people come into my business and they're not starting, what is my weakness? Taking out obs. What about if they start and they don't stay for very long? Awesome. What if I'm not actually having any other people that are assets in my company?
Networking.
No. Developing leaders, right?
Oh, okay.
What if I don't know anything? That's networking.
Oh, okay.
What if I'm just winging everything and I'm just like, this is great, woohoo, here we go, and like I'm just doing some sales, training some people, but I don't really know anything? That's a lack of networking, right? So everything where if I'm looking at my position, I don't want to look at myself as a spidergram, but I want to look at myself as a person because the business is as strong as the leader, right? So the business that I've always worked in, I've always been working with Ronan or Eddie, the business has always been a very, very strong environment to creating people who could do really, really well because the people who are running it are very strong at what they do. Does it make sense? If I am finding that parts of my business are not able to develop the people that I want to develop, well, I've got to look at myself first and I've got to say, where's the hole in my game? Now, if you're really, really new, you're going to have a lot of holes in your game. That's totally normal because you're learning skills. If you're a senior leader and you're finding holes in your game, really look at, and you're finding holes in your team or the position that you're at in the business in your head, you've got to look at your actual personality in the way, not your personality, your skill set and the way that you're acting towards certain areas where you might not want to jump out of your comfort zone or you might not think you're doing anything wrong. You know how Patrick before was talking about unconscious incompetence? If you don't know what you don't know, then you need to be asking more questions. That's why Kim's going to talk to us about networking in a sec. But I guess like when I'm talking about retraining leaders, right, I need to be thinking, first of all, I'm setting a standard of what? What do we learn as number 1, 7 key area?
Sales.
Yeah, field, right? Sales. You guys all got here based on sales criteria, right? Is that right? Did anyone get here else on anything else? No? So sales. So we're pretty good at sales, right?
Yeah.
This is one question I have for you, though. Do you know why you're good at sales?
Yeah.
Who can confidently explain why they're good at sales in like 2 sentences?
Yeah.
Oh, Marley's like, ooh, hand up, yes, me, sir.
I can read people pretty well and adapt my pitch and the way I pitch.
So you're pretty good at qualifying people?
Yeah.
For sure, and you know how to like change the pitch to what they need. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Aiden, you had one? Did you saying it? Go.
I'm good at systems.
Because you're good at systems?
Simple systems, yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
I'm good with people, just relationship build with anyone.
So we've got 3 different answers, completely different answers, right? So qualifying systems and relationships. What else?
Don't think.
Hmm?
Don't think.
Don't think. So like in SW3 equals next, yeah?
Mentality, keep doing the right thing again and again.
So like good habits, for sure. So you've got all these like different styles to why you're good, right? Do you think that if you were training, Aiden, would you like to have Tush on your team?
Yeah, come on.
Come on. No, would you like someone like Tush on your team?
Yeah,
And would you like someone like Marley on your team? And would you like someone like Louis on your team? Keelan? Yes? So you need to be able to relate to all of those different strengths that those people have, and you need to be able to explain to people why they're good or not good, right? And you're not going to explain that in a mean way. We're all nice here. But what you need to be able to break down is if I'm going to draw this really well. If you, or if Retrain is speaking to customer, right, you need to be able to break down every part of that conversation as to why they did or did not succeed, right? In a way where it's not a barrage of negativity when you're teaching them, right? It's build, break, build is what we're taught, right? But you're able to break down, just like, imagine when you were kids, right? You had like Lego. Did anyone play with Lego? Or what are those, like Bionicles? Does everyone know what I'm talking about? Lego, and you have this huge tower of Lego, and it's like the Batman Sedaddle or something like that. I don't know, I was into Batman. But when you smash the shit out of it, you have all these little Lego boxes that it's made up of, right? That's your sales pitch. Your sales pitch is the Batman Sedaddle, right? But it's made up of little bits and pieces that you know what you're doing, or you're subconsciously competent in acting on those things. So you don't think about walking into a pitch and going, all right, C factors, smile, eye contact, excitement. Hi, do you, right? You just do it, right? So you're subconsciously competent. You've got to be able to break down the small bits and pieces to create that competency within the people you're teaching, right? And you not only need to create that competency in the small bits and pieces, but they also need to understand why that's important. If I tell you it's really important that you do this every time you talk to someone, and I say you're going to ring the bell every time you do this, right? You're going to be like, no, that's weird, right? But if I explain to you why it's important, don't do that, by the way. But if I explain to you why it's important, right, then, and it made sense to you, then you would follow that pattern. Does that make sense? So that's going to come down to a lot of different things. For example, I drew this for a reason, by the way. If I'm talking about when I'm talking to a customer, I want to explain C factors. You know, we did a really good topic of this at the Owners Conference, but we were talking about explaining to people C factors and why you can't just do one or two of them. You have to do all three of them, right? And you can use a silly example. I'm sure you guys have done this in a retrain before, where you're talking like, you know, without actually like using eye contact, and you're just really excited, but you're excited and you have smile. Oh my God, I suck. You have smile and excitement, but you don't have eye contact. You kind of just like, hi, how are you today? It's so really exciting. You know what I mean? It's weird for people, right? But if you have excitement, right, and you don't have a smile, but you have eye contact, and you're just like, hey, how are you today? Really good? Awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, you want to hear? Dave, nice to meet you. I think it's really weird as well. So you can explain those certain things and make it fun for people, right? Because we're creating a fun environment to grow in and learn from, but you're breaking down C factors, right? Oh God. The next thing you can break down is your body language, right? If I've got someone who's walking into businesses and they're talking like, hey, how are you today? That's obvious, right? But some things are not so obvious. So some things are just the fact that they had the pocket in their hand, like that. Or some things are just the fact that when the customer said something to them, they didn't actually react with an answer. They reacted with another question. So it's like, hey, how are you? And the customer says, I'm good, thanks, how are you? And they go, I'm Dave. What? Like, it makes no sense to the sentence, but you need to be able to break down all of those little bits and pieces and make it really, really fun for that person to learn. You know, when the first time you might be doing like an action sport. So maybe it's kayaking in a river or hiking or something that's a bit dangerous, but it's kind of dangerously fun. Like, what's that thing where you fly out of bungee jumping or skydiving, right? The first time you're learning to do something that's a bit different to what everybody else would learn, you kind of like laugh at how shit you are at it. Does everyone do that? Like when you try and do something that's ridiculous that not many people do, and your friend's like, yeah, it's going to be really fun, and we go and do it, and then you just like suck at it really, really badly. You're kind of like, ha ha ha, I'm so bad. You need to create that environment for your retrains from the first time that you're teaching them something. That's an expectation for those people, right? So in a first day retrain clinic, I'm talking about a few different things. So the first thing I'm going to write for someone is, you can write this down. We are a progression, not perfection business. I am not expecting you to be a rock star on your first day. If you are, that's awesome. We'll travel the world. But I'm expecting you to just learn little bits and pieces along the way, get a little bit better every single day, and I'll draw for them like get a little bit better every single day so that you're actually feeling like we're progressing. Does it make sense? If you make, and then I'll say this again, I'll say, your job today is to go out and make as many mistakes as possible, as long as those mistakes become lessons. Does that make sense? So if I make 1,000 mistakes today and I learn 1,000 lessons, I'm going to be 1,000 times better than the person who made one mistake today and only had one lesson. Does that make sense? Because I'm learning how to run, and if this person's a serious person, I'm talking to them as like, because I'm learning how to run a business from scratch, I may as well make as many mistakes as possible to get as many lessons as possible, because the person who runs a business with 1 million lessons under their belt is going to run a much more effective business. And what am I doing there when I'm talking to them like that?
You're relating to it.
I'm relating to them. I'm what?
Making them feel comfortable.
Yep, for sure. What else am I doing?
Building them up.
Yep, there's one small thing.
Preempting that they're actually going to make mistakes and they don't get frustrated over it.
Yeah, what else? It's going to change your life if no one has the answer. This is what I've done with every retrain since I've really understood retraining, and it's talking about where they're going to be in the future. So if I go to the field, right, and I'm a retrain, and I'm really excited to go and learn some sales, and we're going to go and crush it, and it's really fun, but if I go out to the field that day and all I've got in front of me is if all that's in front of me is all I've got, which is the field, so I'm either going to fail or I'm going to succeed. And I've got this fantastic cheerleader behind me, which is you guys, telling me I'm great, let's work on this, da 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 da. But if all I've got is what's exactly in front of me, then if I fail at that, it's natural for someone to feel that demotivation. Does it make sense? It's natural to feel like if that's all I've got and I fail at it, well, I've failed as a person. Does it make sense? If I'm talking about them learning skills and then they're able to use that later in life, that's really easy for someone to continually feel like they're going for progression instead of perfection, right? If they think that I have to get good at this C factors or this close today and I fail at that close today, then I've failed. That's like a full stop sentence. Full stop sentences are really abrupt, right? Like when you write them in an email, you just finish it with a full stop and you're like, fuck you, take that, right? But if you leave it with a ... well then the story never really ends. Does that make sense? I never want the story to really end for that person if I think they're good. And if you're recruiting people into your business, you may as well be recruiting them if they're good. You don't want to be recruiting people who are not good, right? So if you're recruiting everyone that you think is good, then you're always going to leave the story on a ... as if you're going to learn this over time, you're going to learn this now, progression, not perfection, and I want you to be thinking about why it's valuable to you down the line, because that gives the person hope that they probably didn't have at the time. You're creating hope in people for where they're going to be. So I did this with a guy that I was training recently called Alex Brown. I don't need to be training people, by the way. I just went in the field for the fun of it and built a couple of guys. But this guy, Alex Brown, is really, really good. I took him up to the Gold Coast with me a couple of weeks ago. You met him, Kim. On his first day, I was just talking to him about, when you're breaking down the day. It's really, really simple. If I'm breaking down someone's day, we do it based on 3 things. Right? What do we break a day down on?
Pitch, pace, attitude.
Pitch, pace, attitude, right? So on his first day, everyone might do a breakdown and we go, all right, we're going to do a day breakdown now. It's really exciting. And we're awesome. So just write this on your page. And we just do pitch. And we're going to write 2 positives and 2 negatives. And it's really why? Why would I as an adult man write that onto my page? That's really weird. So when I'm breaking down someone's day, I'm saying, cool, so what we're going to do now is break down your day. A breakdown of your day is an analysis of what you've done today based on numbers and logic as opposed to emotion. Because if you're going to go out into a business and run a business, or if you're going to go out and be an expert in the field, then if you're basing your days on emotion, when you're in a good mood, you're going to do really well. But are you always in a good mood? No. Sometimes you're going to be in a bad mood, right? You can figure out why you didn't succeed that day. And if you're going to base your business based on emotion instead of logic, well, you're going to have a very up and down business, right? But would you like a consistently growing business and a consistently profitable business? For sure, right? So I'm going to break my day down based on logic and numbers, and we're going to use a couple of different marketing systems in there, like the law of averages. Do you guys understand what the law of averages is? And I'm going to explain it as if I'm talking to a professional, because I'm talking to a professional that I'm building, right? Remember your first week on the field? Except for people who've been here for 2 weeks, it's fine. But some people have been here for a couple of months as well. The first week on the field, would you want that person running a business? Nah. Imagine me on my first week on the field. I came from, like he said, I was an oyster opener. I didn't really talk to many people. So my first week on the field was kind of hey, how are you today? My name's Dave. Really nice to meet you. I'm just in the area today, freaking people out. Imagine that. Imagine that as an office owner walking into atmosphere going yeah, how are you this morning? Ready for pitch, pace, attitude? It's going to be great. Yeah, sweet. Or something. It's really weird for people, right? But now I can hold myself a little better because I learned those things. Well, when you're breaking down someone's day, I'm talking about and the reason why I want you to learn this is because when you're a leader, that's the sentence right there. When you're a leader, you need to be able to explain this to your new guys. right? Because if you can explain things really well, like I'm explaining it to you, then is it going to be easier for you to like build those leaders and build those teams? Like if you know that person's goal is to get to management, or if you know that person's goal is to create the skill set, like if I know the person's goal is to create a skill set where they can transfer these skills to another industry, how am I going to talk about breaking down someone's day? And silence was there. I'm going to talk about it as if I learn how to be able to break down someone's day in any performance-based environment, that creates a sales manager role. That means that I can actually analyze and execute on people who, how do I say this? If I have 20 people in a sales environment that is not this environment, and I can transfer that to another role, like a telemarketing role, or I'm running a car dealership or anything like that, and I can actually take the sales from where they are, say they're doing about $15,000 in sales a day, I don't know, and I can take that to $35,000 just by analyzing numbers. Am I an asset to any company?
Yes.
For sure. Now, if I'm talking to someone about management, I'm talking about like how you're going to build a team as fast as you can, where you're going to have people who understand the basics and are able to develop themselves to leadership almost on their own because they're able to figure out their day, right? Like when we're creating leaders, we're trying to create people who are independent people. Does that make sense? So when I'm talking to these people about breaking down their day, I'm talking about like you need to learn how to break your own day down and be independent and then be able to replicate that in yourself. Like I'm talking about replication and replacing yourself from like day one. Is anyone else doing that? For sure. How are you doing that, Aiden?
Same system that you're doing, it basically using the same kind of language. So if if they're talking to me about saying they want to be leaders or something like that, I'm explaining it to them in a way that they can basically say, oh, I can say to them, cool, so when you've actually got someone on your team, you can explain them how to do this, so it's really important to take notes on this particular aspect.
Great.
Is that good?
Yeah, for sure.
Excellent.
I can tell I took you out in your first couple of days. Love you, Aiden. And you were trained by Eddie for sure. You trained me as well. So another thing I want to talk to you guys about is... Sorry, hold on. I'm trying to combine two different speeches into one iPad. It's very crazy. Advanced networking. So I'm not going to ruin your speech, Kim. Don't worry. Kim's like, fucking don't say anything. Advanced networking. Advanced networking is being able to take all of this information here. Like Patrick, like the amount of points that I've written in my two speeches that everybody else has talked about is kind of insane. But Patrick talked about actual statistics of you're going to remember 5% by what time?
A month?
30 days.
In 30 days, you're going to remember 5% of everything, right? Well, and you're going to remember 50% by 12 o'clock? 75% is gone.
So you're going to forget 75% within 24 hours.
That's hectic. That's hectic, mate. So 75% in 24 hours. Your job is to be able to learn all of that information for what purpose? Other than improving yourself.
So you can
What's my point in being here other than speaking?
Replicating others.
Teach.
Yeah, to teach, right? Like if I go to a different conference, or if I go up to the Gold Coast, like you were there, Kim, right? Or if I go to an owners conference, or even if I come here, like I still learn from people. I'm not just like management, woohoo, I know everything. Like when Patrick's talking, I'm 100% learning. 100%. When these guys are talking about sales, I was like, oh, nice, I'll use that in the field. Do you know what I mean? Like everything that someone says is information that I can use. If I think I'm better at it, then I might use my own. But there's definitely stuff that I'm using. So I'm using that to what? Teach my guys, right? Every bit of information you're coming from here, when you're teaching, when you're learning the information here, you should be using every single bit of information not to improve yourself only, but to use advanced networking and actually bring that back to your guys straight away. Because if you're just using that information to better yourself, which is what I did for about 6 months of my training program, then you're going to find yourself just stuck on 5 or 6 guys for the rest of your life.
And can I just say something on that point?
Please.
I think that point is very, very important because, you know, a lot of times, like you hear like Dave or myself or Ronan and people talking, you're like, oh my God, those guys are so, they know so much. The reality is we are like thieves. We steal a lot of information from a lot of different people and then you make it yours. Like Dave, like you say right now, you steal as many information as you can from as many people as possible and then you make it yours and you create your own style. Like we don't really create much. Everything I was talking about, we stole it from someone else. Just few things that we actually came up with, but the 80 to 90% of the content we stole it from someone else.
Yeah, because when I came here, like what did I know?
Nothing.
Nothing at all. Yeah, when I came into the business, I knew nothing at all. So like I had to take it from somewhere, otherwise I would just be winging direct sales and running my own business. Like it doesn't make any sense. Like just winging everything. So everything I've like written down here or what I've talked about in morning meetings or what I talk about in general is something usually that I've taken from someone who is an expert in what they do. I don't take it from like a random guy on the street and I'd be like, what's your opinion, sir? Like some homeless guy, like, what's your opinion, sir, on interviewing? And he's like, and I'm like, excellent, cool, I'll use that. No, like I go and ask people and I go and watch videos from like Justin Cobb where I ask like, you know, Patrick or Ronan or Tim for the best information. Does it make sense? I ask them for the information that's going to make the biggest difference on me and my guys, right? The next thing I want to talk to you guys about, I'm going to split it up into retraining and developing the leader because it's really confusing me trying to do both at the moment. Retraining is a combination of two things, right? And I learned this from someone in my office who's built a team really, really quickly right now, Jody Buckles. Like she definitely emphasizes one over the other, but I was the opposite. So we're complete polar opposites like Ronan was talking about. I'm all about like just break the crap out of me and just tell me what's wrong and I'll go and fix it because I don't care because you're gonna make me rich and because that's what my motivation is, like money, right? Whereas Jody's like the person who's like motivated by like excitement and like having a good time and like freedom and all that kind of stuff. So she's more motivated about the excitement. So there's two parts to retraining for me, is excitement and information, right? The information is all of the stuff that we've systemized already for you. Like we're talking about there with me and Patrick, we're talking about it's all there for you already. There's the marketing systems, which is the law of averages. I'm going to get you into it. Yeah, you've got to say 5 steps. What else we got? Great. So we've got those marketing systems already in place. We've got a COD manual. Does everyone have one of those? Does everyone know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Sort of, maybe. That has all of the skills that someone needs to make, that someone needs to learn to be able to make like $1,000 plus a week, right? It's all in place already, so we just have to teach it. Like that's as simple as it is. When we're talking about here, we're talking about breaking down every single tiny little bit of that pitch to improve someone. Well, I've got to do that with a level of excitement, right? When Eddie was talking about atmosphere, you kind of like understand that atmosphere is really important to like get people excited, right? Because people learn more when they're in a better mood. People perform better when they're in a better mood. People will do more things. They will work harder. Like there are guys out now selling raffle tickets in Sydney because they're on an assistant management push for Alex. Do you understand? Like they wouldn't have done that if it was just a random weekend maybe, but they're doing it because they're excited to go out there and like hit a target that's really exciting. Like let's go, right? So if I want to create that excitement all the time, right? We're talking about impulse curves when Ronan was drawing it before. And he was talking about how like your interview is like whatever. You're doing like different stages of the interview. Well, that's the same thing, but like wouldn't I want to keep my guy if I want them to perform all the time, wouldn't I want them on like the highest level of impulse like all the time? Oh my God. Yeah? I want their attitudes to be 100 out of like 150 out of 100. So I'm going to do that by doing all of the stuff that you think is really ridiculous. Okay? My office thinks I am pretty intelligent, I hope. But my office also thinks I'm a bit of a dork, but it's good. Like I dress, yeah, for sure. Like I dress well and I present myself well and I can do everything I need and I have the information at hand, but I don't walk around like a dick. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't teach people like I'm better or like have that sense of whatever. Like I'm walking around and I'm like high-fiving people and I'm like dancing in atmosphere. And I'm encouraging people to do the same thing because that's atmosphere. Well, I transfer all of that atmosphere to the field as well. So how long are you guys on the field for every day? 6 8 hours. 7 to 8. Let's just say we'll round it off at like 7 based on lunch, right? So 7 hours in the field, you're not going to be dancing and singing for 7 hours. Well, I am. It's great. But like I'm walking around the field and I'm just like creating atmosphere all the time. So anytime anyone, like we were on the road trip together for 3 days, right? How many times like was I just like high-fiving you for no reason? Like probably like 6 times a day. They're just like, we're like, cool. See, like we're going to have lunch. Awesome. What are we having? Salmon. Yes. Do you know, like everything? How would you like? Who was the coolest person you met? They're like, oh, well, I met this blacksmith. Blacksmith, nice. Like you just got to keep people like engaged all the time. Do you know what I mean? You've got to have that level of like personal interaction. And what? You're laughing at salmon?
No, blacksmith.
Why?
Doesn't like high five.
Because when Dean started, it was all
You don't like high fives? No. You don't like high fives? Yeah, go on. You don't have to high five someone. You can fist bump them. You can bump booties, whatever you want to do. I don't really mind. But like, but like that's what you want to. You want to create like a, not only like a mental atmosphere for people, but like also a physical atmosphere. Like you're not going to go out and hug everyone because those people are weird. But but like fist bumping, high fives, like smiling. Like we underestimate how much power you have training someone. You use so much of the non-verbal factors when you're training people. I mean, when you're selling to people. Like, has anyone heard the saying before where they say they save their best self for the field? Has anyone heard that saying before? That's really annoying. People use all of their energy to sell to like customers. I love customers, actually, they're cool. But like some of them are not cool, and we're using like all this like, hey, how are you? It's really exciting. Like we're just like rapping basically, doing all this crazy stuff, and then we get to the retrain, we're like, yeah, basically your pitch was shit. So no. Your C factor is really bad. Like where's the energy? Like where's the excitement to get that person better? Like I'm gonna make every little bit that they're failing at fun. I'm going to make sure that I'm smiling at them. I've got eye contact. I'm exciting. I'm ice-breaking conversations where I'm teaching people all the time. Because if that person's really, really excited to listen to me because I'm just such like, what's going to come out of his mouth next? Who fucking knows? Like that person's locked into listening to me. So, and every bit of information I have is really good because the second part is my strength. Right? I had to learn all of that from Jodie because she just talks shit all day, every day about random stuff. And she's just walking around like this, like all the time. Well, that wasn't me when I started. I was like, yeah, cool. Like that's how I used to speak. So I had to like create that within myself because it was going to help me grow. That's it. Like I'm doing everything that's helping me grow. So if you guys are excited about retraining people to do really, really well, like Ronan's talking there about interviewing, if you grow by 15 people next week because you're just like, just give me like 15 interviews, I don't care, like every day, fuck it, right? But none of them stay the week after, that's not going to be very exciting, right? Right? So we want to make sure that we're retraining people really well. So we've got excitement number 1. Right? Why is excitement number 1 and information is 2?
Because you need the energy from the excitement to carry on the information with quality.
Yeah, have you guys ever been to high school before?
No, never.
Yeah, it's pretty rare. In high school, did you have favorite teachers and then also really shit teachers?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who was your worst teacher?
Miss Timperon.
Miss Timperon.
Yeah.
Jesus, what a last name. Holy dooly. Yeah, Miss Timperon. Timpy? What did Timpy say?
She was just always like, she had like the big kind of witch nose with the water on the end. She always had the glasses set on the
What?
end. She always like looked at
That's an
people like that.
exaggeration.
I shit you not.
Who was your favorite teacher?
Muzz.
Muzz? Was it a dude? Was he a PE
Yeah.
teacher?
Yeah.
Of course he was.
Muzz.
Fucking course he was. Muzza. Yeah, so we've all got our favorite teachers, right? And why was that person your favorite teacher?
It's just fun as hell.
Fun as hell, right? What was her name? Miss Timpany. Timperon. Why was she a negative
Really
teacher?
mean and scary.
She was really mean and scary.
Yeah.
So, what class was she teaching?
Like SOS and English and stuff like that.
What's SOS?
It's like, yeah, that stuff.
Sociology.
Didn't really listen much to it, obviously.
Called it SOS. What a guy.
Yeah.
And what was Muzz was teaching PE, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, I guess like if you're going to a health degree and you really paid attention in PE, that's awesome. Do you know what I mean if you actually use that? But like, what do most people do in PE?
Play sport.
Play sport and like run into each other and sweat and go into a change room and it's really awkward, right? So Muzz was teaching that subject, but you loved that subject as opposed to, is sociology important?
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Kind of.
Fairly.
Cool, yeah, important, right? But Timper, no, because of the way she taught you, right?
No.
So it's like number 1 is excitement because I've seen people go out on their, like, did you say, who did $800 in their second day? Did someone say that?
Yeah,
Someone said that to me today.
Yeah.
Who was that?
Mandy did it yesterday.
Mandy did it yesterday. Good old Mandy. Where's Mandy? She's busy.
At a wedding.
At a wedding, of course she is. What a woman. So Mandy went out and did $800 in her second day. I've seen people do the same thing. I've seen people go out and do like $800 in their third day just based on the fact that they were just like this. Because what are we selling?
Ourselves.
Yeah, we're selling ourselves, right? We're selling high fives and text messages. We're selling good vibes. Like if you're selling HelloFresh, for sure you've got a good product. But you've definitely sold to people that bought it just because they liked you, right? For sure. And it's the same thing in sales in general. So I teach excitement first because I want someone to just go out there and have a great time because they need to enjoy it, right? And then I'm going to take it back to explaining everything that they do with the information that I have. So I want to volunteer really quickly of anyone who thinks that they know the marketing systems better than me. If they think they can explain all of the marketing systems in detail better than me, does anyone think they can do that?
Putting us on the spot, Dave.
Cool. That's perfect. That's perfectly fine, right? Because I've been through all of that sort of stuff. But that's the kind of level that you want to raise your hand to immediately. Does that make sense? Because if you can't explain like the marketing systems in as like that's probably like a fear factor. You guys were like, I wonder what he knows. Like, is there a secret? Like, what is the law of averages? Is it 201 instead of 200? But like you want to get to that level of explanation for your guys, because if you can break down every single thing, like let's think of the impulse factors, like fear of loss. Like how would anyone explain fear of loss? Aiden, how would you explain fear of loss?
How do I explain fear of loss? How do I explain fear of loss? You put me on the spot now.
All right.
I suppose if you, in relation to greed, fear of loss makes the product have more value. So you're increasing value in the product because of scarcity.
It's nice.
Cool.
Really like that. Really like that. Good answer. So that's pretty good, right? Would anyone else explain it like that? Would someone say fear of loss is like, missing out's kind of shit, so anyone do that? I used to do that. I used to be like, yeah, missing out's pretty bad. Indifference is like not caring about anything. That's like, do you know who that is? That's like emos and like really sad people don't care about anything. Like you have to be like dead inside to not care about anything. So if you're teaching that to people, stop that now. Indifference is a tool that we use to show that we're not like say other sales companies where the ideal look of a salesperson is like the whole like car salesman who travels 50Ks with his big black bag and he walks in and he's like, howdy sir, and like, do you know what I mean? And like every time he needs to make a sale he's like, yeah, you'll get that like really pushy on that sale, right? Well, indifference is like pulling back to the opposite effect of showing people that we don't really mind if they buy or not because we've got the product and we've got the standard and we've got the, do you know what I mean? Like that's how we're explaining like that level of indifference. And I mean, the more that you can break down every single part in your pitch, it's easier to train people on sales. And sales is what got you guys here. But now I want to talk more about like, I guess, developing leaders. So developing leaders, like I've already talked a little bit about, you need to make sure that your weaknesses are the limitations to your crew, right? So if I've got if I've got no growth, it's because I can't interview. If I've got no people doing, like if I haven't got anyone in my crew that's developing to leadership, it's because I don't know how to set those standards, right? If I've got no one who can, like no one lasts more than 3 or 4 days, it's because I don't know how to retrain people. So that's really, really easy to tell, right? The next thing is, has anyone done this? I used to do this every day. I stopped recently because I saw it as a really, really bad habit. But are these rubbers? Nope. All right, we're just going to do it down here. Tissues. All right. Has anyone ever done this? I used to do this every day. You guys should do it every week because you're planning out your week. But you do this, you're like, and then you're like, yeah, go on. Yeah. Just like draw all these things. I used to do that when I had like 2 people, so it was like Bill and Bob. And I used to be like, yeah, that's what I'm going to look like soon. Good on you, Bill and Bob, you great squares. I love you, squares. Because squares are what? Leaders. And what are these guys? Right. You cannot look at your crew like a bunch of bubbles on a chart. I used to have people like that I was interviewing when I was really shit at interviewing, and I was just really excited about the whole opportunity, and I was like, you know what you could be one day? If you really show me that you're good?
Be a square on my chart.
You could be a square on my chart. And you could be a square that has circles coming off it, just like me. So just look out. And like I used to talk about like the fact that they could be part of an organization, but it was always kind of like I was looking at people as like, how many sales can you do? And do you have people coming off you? Does that make sense? So I was looking at it literally as if it was a spidergram. So I was looking at how many legs do you have and how strong is your base? But if I'm looking at people like that, it's very easy for people to not follow that person. Why?
It's just a number, they don't feel like you care.
Yeah, for sure. And like that's the biggest reason why people, well, that's like one of the biggest reasons why people actually leave businesses to come to us, right? Because we do care and we do spend time training and we'll take you out for dinner. And like one thing that really someone said to me once was like, well, if you go into a Commonwealth bank and ask them ask the branch manager how to get their job, they'll say, get the fuck out of my office. Whereas if you come and ask me, how do I get your job? Like I'll take you out for a beer. Have you heard that before? Like that's the way that we operate because we're looking to like replace ourselves, right? Like that's our whole business motto. So when I'm looking at people like just spidergrams, well, I lose that personal connection to them. People will not fight as hard for my goals as they will for their own unless they don't have any, right? But if I'm talking to Bill here and Bill's like an ex-architect and he really wants to create his own architect business, he just wants to learn the skills of management. But I'm just looking at Bill and going, mate, can you do 2,500 every single week and recruit a few people? Like, do you see where the gap of motivation is? Does that make sense? People are always going to fight harder for their own goals in terms of, like, if Ronan, okay, so I actually started in Brisbane in an office with Eddie and another lady called Bianca. And in 4 weeks into my business, Ronan told me that if I wanted to work and I had the opportunity to, if I wanted to work hard enough for it and I was ready, he's moving down to Sydney, so I had to follow him. This is 4 weeks into the business. I was in Brisbane. I just set up my rent like in a house that had a 12-month lease on it, and it was with my best friend. And I just left home. It was my first time renting out a home, and I just finally got a job in Brisbane. And then he said, "Pack up your bags, we're going to Sydney." I was like, pretty good, but I did it. Why do you think I did that? Because I believed in Ronan, right? I believed in everything that he cared about me in the 4 weeks that I barely even knew him, right? But I also believed in myself and my ability. But like I definitely followed like him to the end of the earth, like, and that's why I'm here. But how much are you creating that within your crew? Do you know what I mean? Like, how much are people really following what you're talking about? Are you talking to people about what they want so bad, or are you just talking about? It's really easy to get caught up in this business about exactly what you do. So I work hours, I guess. We all work kind of like extra hours compared to most people. And it's really easy to have all of your goals consistently reminded in your head of what you're doing. So for example, like Ronan talks to me about what my office is doing. I'm looking at my office. My guys are looking at my office. Colin's looking at my office. My recruiter's looking at my office. I'm consistently finding out things about my business that gets me focused on what? My business. So when I'm talking to other people, if I don't switch off and reset my brain a little bit, what am I going to talk to them about? My business. Yeah, for sure. So if I don't actually like reset myself and go and talk to like Eleanor or Sasha or Louis about what they're actually excited about, and I just keep talking about, yeah, we're going to be at like, 60K in a couple of weeks. They're like, what does that even mean? If I said that sentence to someone, we're going to be at 60K in a couple of weeks. What? Louis kind of probably gets it, maybe, because he's been here for longer and I talk to him about that more. But like Sasha would have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. Do you know what I mean? If I'm talking about like we're going to be doing this amount of wire, and we're going to have this many people, and it's going to be this great, no idea. That makes sense. But she does know that she wants to get better at sales and she wants to be a leader because she wants to lead. And do you see what I'm saying? Like she wants to run her own deal and she wants to have a bit of independence. Like she understands what she's doing. Does that make sense to you guys? Okay. And in terms of being the leader that people want to follow, that's really easy. Like everything's really easy. It blows my mind how people make it so complicated. What's the marketing system that we're going to use to be the leader that people want to follow?
8 steps.
Awesome. Rona was talking about that a second ago. What are they again?
Be on time.
Oh, actually, no, this is a great test. Who here confidently knows the 8 steps? Like confidently can recite them backwards?
Yep.
So actually raise your hands really high. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 people at this table. If you want to build leaders, you would just know these back to front. Because what you're doing is you're just creating good habits in people. And good habits are people, like leaders are just people with good habits. That makes sense to you, right? Like leaders are just people who can come in with a good attitude every day. Do you sell more shit if you have a good attitude? Yeah? Do you learn more stuff if you're on time? For sure. Do you do more sales and have a better fun ride out if you're more prepared?
Yeah.
Great. Do you make more sales if you put effort in for the whole day instead of just half the day?
Yeah.
Great. Do you find more customers that buy $100 tickets, or do you, I don't know how working territory really works on the event, but I'm guessing pitching everyone. Do you find more $100 tickets or pitch everyone, like do more sales when you just do that sort of stuff?
Yep.
Yeah? Do you get more information when you spend time with better people in the office by working your territory within the office? Yes. Do you get more sales done when you safeguard your attitude and don't neg out after like 5 customers told you to piss off? Yes. Do you have more drive and more feeling in your legs when you're walking around or when you're pitching and standing in one spot all day at the HelloFresh stand when you know why the fuck you're doing it? For sure, right? And do you feel like a bit of a boss when you take control in a conversation, or when you make sure that customer buys the thing, or you show you retrain like how to do certain things, you take control of an impact, you're like, who's got a high roller impact, and you put your hand up and you're like, yeah, fucking. Get me? Are those all traits of like really like people you would want in your crew who just does all that every day? That's it. Like leadership, we say is like $2,500 in raffle tickets for 2 weeks running. I don't know what it is for HelloFresh, 15 sales? Yep, for 1 week or 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
2 weeks, right? So we've got like a sales standard, and then for us we've got, I'm pretty sure it's the same on both campaigns, but it'll be like impacts, leading ride-outs. We have a road trip, CODs. Like we put a road trip in ours just so you have to be out on the road at one point. But they're all like really obvious targets that like sales, da-da-da-da. But like if someone was performing on the 8 steps every single day and I just taught them how to do those things, wouldn't they do them? Mm-hmm. So like you know how we do this thing at we do this thing when we're talking, when we're breaking down our week. Does anyone break down their week? Everyone breaks down their week? Yep. We break down our week and we do it on the 8 steps to success. So we'll do like an 8 out of 10. We do like a 7 out of 10. Okay. This is really funny watching people do this when I see them do it, because they just write numbers for the sake of it. Like, oh, IELTS proof. That's feeling pretty good. Probably about a 6. Like, what does that mean? Like, did you come in with an attitude or not? Like, oh yeah, I was I was only 6 minutes late, so I'd give myself probably about a 7 out of 10 on being on time. Like, no. Like, what would you really give yourself? If I'm late,
1.
I'm not early. Is that right?
Yeah.
So if I'm not
If I'm not
early, I'm late.
Early, I'm late.
Good job, Tush. So, which means it's a 0. Does that make sense? Like, how harsh are you really being on yourself on being the purest example of like the 8 steps to success? Because if you were the purest example of it, wouldn't it be easy for people to follow and replicate what you do? Do what I do. Come in on time every single day. Have a fantastic attitude, not a good attitude. Does anyone have a good attitude right now? Who has a great attitude right now? We'll find out, right? But yeah, like I hope so, because if you just have a good attitude, you're just going to get like good results. But like to be really great, I just watched Oz the Great and Powerful, by the way. It's a great movie. But you need to be having a great attitude to perform every single day, right? So we need to come in on time every single day with a great attitude. We need to have a sick plan. We need to work really, really hard. We need to make sure we're speaking to the right people. That would be work your territory. We need to be keeping our attitude all day. Like if you're really judging yourself on that, like have you ever had a day where you think you're in a great attitude and then in one cut, like you're literally having the greatest day. You might be on like 500 at lunch or something, or you might be on like 4 sales at lunch or something. And then you walk into a business and you're like, morning mate, how are you today? Fucking, you're not even paying attention. All right, morning mate, how are you today?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, good. And then they just go like, get the out of my business before I run you down. I'm like, what? Like no one says that, by the way. But imagine if that happened and you reacted to that what is that not doing?
Safeguarding it.
Yeah. What if you didn't keep your attitude after that for the whole day?
You're worried.
You would be like, that's what your guys will do. Does it make sense? Because if you're being like the 50% to the 8 steps to success, like your guys are going to do like 25% of that. That makes sense? So if I'm marking myself down on like 6 out of 10, I'm being really honest with myself because you can't like lie to life. Does that make sense? Like if I'm showing my leader and I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I got an 8 out of 10, but really had like a 4, right? The leader will be like, oh, fantastic, man. Good job. Yeah, awesome. And then they'll never really know why you suck. Does that make sense? But you can't lie to life. Like when you don't have a team around you, or if you aren't doing the things or you're not where you want to be, or you're not training people, or you're not doing enough sales, like it's based on how honest you are really with the 8 steps to success. And if you need help with it, that's okay. But you just have to ask for that help. Does that make sense? I create like a really important thing with the leaders that I'm training where I will sit them down in their first week. I'm sure you guys do the same. And you have like an expectations conversation. And in that conversation, I'm talking to them about like student mentality, work ethic, attitude. They're all great. But like what's really, really important to be able to train someone properly? Begins with H. Honesty, right? Like Ronan there was talking about like being able to understand the kind of person you're training. Like if you don't have honesty with the people you're training, you're never really going to know like what they're really feeling, right? Because what are they always going to tell the person who they look up to? Like if I was really poor, and my mum said, how you going? Would I be like, Mum, I'm really poor? No. Wouldn't that be inspiring for Mum? God, I raised a poor person. What an honor. No, right? Like I'd be talking to them, I'd be like, oh, you know, I'm just trying to like make ends meet, and I'm like, got this like part-time job, and like, you know what I mean? So when the new guys are failing and you don't have that honesty with them, what are they going to do? Oh, my attitude, like they spoke to 250 people in one day, and they did one sale. They're like, my attitude was great though. Like, no. No, your attitude was not great. That doesn't make any logical sense of how you can end like that. Does it make sense? So like creating that honesty is really, really important. But like, do you guys understand how to do that?
No.
No? What's a really easy way to trust someone?
Be honest yourself.
Setting the example.
Yeah. Relatable, yeah. Setting the example, yeah. Relatable, for sure. Like knowing things about each other would be important. Spending time with each other that's not just at work, for sure. Like it's not weird to like do something that's not work. We all understand that, right? We can go to like social events and see friends and movies and all those kind of things. There's no reason why you can't do the same thing with those guys there. Like building a relationship, if you're serious about that person, that's not exactly just about work all the time. Because if you talk about work all the time, then what are they fearing about talking about when they're failing?
Work.
Yeah, if you're talking about like $50,000 vision, like we're going to do $1.3 million this year. It's going to be great. So how was your attitude today? And they didn't have an attitude. They're going to be like, oh, it's great. Do you know what I mean? It's great. Just keep going. You're inspiring me, but they're not going to be honest with you, right? And if you're going to create people like everything that I ever do wrong in this business, I go straight to Ronan, even though I don't want to. In fact, it's really annoyed me sometimes to have to go up to him and like say sorry that I've done this. But like, did it get me to where I wanted to be? Hell yeah. Do you know what I mean? Most people aren't going to think like that though. most people are going to think like, you know, I just don't want to fail them. I don't want to make that mistake. And they'll lie to like be nice instead of actually having that honest feedback from you. Does it make sense to you guys? Cool. Yeah, it's been very confusing trying to run two of them at the same time, but I'm going to go for it. The next thing is, and I got this from Lawrence. I'm not going to like say it's mine. Like I said, we're thieves. Okay. The next thing that is really important to creating leaders, and I've run this meeting already since I went and saw him, is creating an environment that's conducive to growth. What kind of environment is conducive to growth?
Positive environment where people are hitting their goals.
Mm-hmm.
Putting a vision.
Yes, a vision for sure.
Doing sales.
Doing some sales, yeah. Got to have a base of sales. Can't tell people we're going to do sales if we can't do them ourselves. Yeah. What else? Fun, easy, lighthearted. Lighthearted? Lighthearted. I was like, Leichhardt? I've been there. Great place.
Having
Italian people.
Progress.
Yeah?
And then
Okay.
other people want to progress.
So write this down. It takes a village to raise a child. You cannot run I've experienced this really badly. I had like 10 people on my crew at once, just me, first genning 10 people. Oh my God. That was messed up. That's a lot of problems. Holy dooly. What am I trying to do when I'm building a business? Is I've got two columns, right? First column is called assets. Next column is called liabilities, right? Some Robert Kawasaki genius for you. Anyone read Rich Dad, Poor Dad? Hola. So I start my business and I'm like here. And every time I recruit someone, they just keep on popping over here, right? My job is to get these people over here so I can have more of these bad boys, right? Because what do assets do? Yeah, they grow wealth, right? They give you money. They put money in your pocket. That's how Robert Kawasaki says it. They put money in your pocket. So when I'm talking about assets in my company versus liabilities, every time I recruit someone, they're a liability. Period. Like they're like a baby. If I recruit a new person, I expect that person to not be able to read a map, to not know how to smile, to not know how to say hi to anyone. That's just what I expect from people. I hope for the best. But most of the time they're like babies. So my job is to create an asset out of that person, right? So when I'm creating an environment that's conducive to growth, I'm thinking about what are the things that they're going to need to make sure that they're doing that. So I'm going to need more than just me to look after all of these different assets and liabilities. So before I'm building a crew, I'm actually building relationships within my office so that people feel more comfortable when I say, hey, Keelan, me and your old buddies, old pals, aren't we?
Yep.
Awesome. I've got this really great guy that I think you're going to get along with really, really great. And I told him you were the best closer in the business, like Harvey Specter style. So I will buy you a beer on crew night if you can take him out for a day. Sound good?
Yep.
Why did I say it like that?
Just showing that you
Pumps up
value
the ego a
people.
bit as well.
Yeah, it pumps up his ego for sure. Like we're in sales, fucking hell. Like I'm not just going to be like, can you take out my guy? I'll be like, no. Right? Like I got to pump up his ego. But I also closed it off really quickly, right? Do you do that to customers sometimes?
Yeah.
I probably shouldn't say this on camera, actually. But I closed off really quickly. That's cool, right? Yeah? I'm just like literally using what I need to like, I'm building a relationship with him so he trusts me. He knows me already, but I'm like making that shit happen because it's going to take more than one person to train my crew because I can't relate to everyone. I can try my best, but I definitely can't relate to every single person and their motivations. So I'm going to need to find people within my business around me that are working alongside me to be able to train the people that I have. Have I gone over time?
Oh, well, keep going, mate.
Keep going, mate. Okay, cool. The next thing that's providing an environment that's conducive to growth is road trips. There's 3 parts to a road trip. It's fun, education, and sales, in that order. I've seen a couple of road trips where they're just sales road trips. It's really sad and really upsetting. Road trips, fun, education, and sales. Like I've said before, people will naturally do more sales if they are having fun and being educated because that's when people perform better and they are happier. That's just basic science, right? The next thing is they need to have coach and mentors. So has anyone heard the Tiger Woods analogy?
Which one?
There's so many. The Tiger Woods analogy is the fact that Tiger Woods has like 8 different coaches for every part of his game. He has a putting coach, he has a driving coach, he has a fashion coach, he has a love coach, failed. He has all these different coaches for different parts of his like actual golf and then different parts of his life that allow him to be successful as a person, right? That's what we need to do as well. Like if I'm learning how to be successful, I might as well learn from successful people, right? So when I'm setting up a new person to be a leader, which is an independent person who can think for themselves and go out and do sales, I need to be thinking that I'm the primary coach because I know what to do for that person from day one to get to where they need to be because I've done it myself, right? Are they going to have different people that they need to relate to? 100%. So I'm going to set those people up to talk to those people by having already built those relationships to do so, asking for more time, spending time with some of that person's new people that they might be able to relate to me, whatever it takes. But we're going to work together as a team because team stands for together everyone achieves more. Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice? So coaches and mentors every single week. This is what I wrote here this morning. My biggest coach in my life is my mum. So thanks, Mum. I am the only child and she has raised me until I left home after uni. She has known me the longest, imparted wisdom on me that has helped me in so many different ways and given me a sense of humour so I can laugh my way through life. But oh my God, if she is telling me off for something or pushing me on her opinion about something, my brain has an automatic switch to hazy. Has anyone had that before? Where their parents say something like, you're not allowed to do this, and then somehow the conversation goes into a time lapse and we play Doctor Who, and then we're back at the same point and they say the same thing again, and you're like, what? And then they talk a little bit more and it keeps on going, and then somehow they say the exact same sentence again, and you're like, what the fuck is happening right now? Like, am I in a different world? But it's because they're just repeating the same things and it sounds really boring to you, right? That's what happens when you can coach someone just by yourself. I've experienced that many a time with the people that I coach. I think my voice is death to them now. So they've actually worked with some other people really recently and they've managed to grow and do really, really well in the position they're in just by having a refreshing tone of voice. It's the same thing when we come to these conferences and you hear me talk or you hear Bronan talk instead of like Eddie and Patrick all the time, or Kim and Tush. Like if you hear a different voice, you're kind of like, oh, like you hear someone talk about law of averages and you're like, game changing. Like I've never heard of this before. Like it's the thing we teach you on your day one, but it's just a different approach to how you're doing it. Does it make sense? So it's like surrounding your guys with people that are going to give that refreshing approach. The next thing is for a reason to be there. So that we were talking about that before in terms of like having their goals and all that sort of stuff, making sure that you're aligning your goals. You're making sure you're focusing on their goals, because when you achieve their goals instead of your goals, well, if you've got 50 other people's goals that are helping you achieve yours, you can't lose, right? Like if I'm achieving, I want to do this amount of sales today, or I can help 50 people how to do their little goals, aren't they going to be more excited to then reach for the big goal? Yes? Awesome. And the last thing is following a system. So we've got the system in place, right? Have you guys got a retraining module sheet down here in Melbourne? You've got one? Have you guys got one for HelloFresh? Yeah, so you've got it's all written out as well, right? Like I'm going to put tick boxes on ours because all you need to be doing is ticking boxes, right? Like you just need to be making sure that people understand each part of the retrain, because the retrain is just the system to do some sales. 5 days, 4 days, you've got a 3-day one. Kim, 3 days? We've got a 4-day one in Sydney. It's literally like there's all these different dot points and I just go, bop, bop, you understand that? And they say no, I'm like, that's okay, I got you. And I'll just explain it again, and then I take it off right in front of them. Does that give them a sense of, yeah, it actually releases dopamine in the brain when they tick that off, or if I tick it off for them, because they're actually achieving things. It might be something as simple as, did we do 15 pitch practices? Yes, they're like, yes, we did. It was great. But that's dopamine hit right there. Dopamine hit, dopamine hit, dopamine hit, dopamine hit every single time. Yeah, ticking it off every time. It's like ticking off lists makes it all like way better. And so when I'm continually doing that for a whole retrain sheet, my retrain sheet's got 60 points on it or something like that. Do you think there's a lot of dopamine in their brain? Do you think they're more excited to go and smash out some sales? They're like fucking having a seizure on the couch, but they're ready to go. Do you know what I mean? By the time we get to the field on their first day, they've already ticked off like 8 things. Do you think they're like, oh my God, this is amazing? We've done like icebreakers. Like, I'm like, did we just learn how to like say hi to someone? But they're like, like ticks. Do you know what I mean? That's all retraining is. And developing leaders is just going to come from your own game. So it's going to come from like how much you guys really find the holes in your own game and be honest with yourself and be honest with your coaches about like where you're actually failing instead of trying to like just please everybody. Sound good? Cool. Thanks, guys.